Hey everyone, and welcome to another segment of CEO at the Gas Pump. I have a special guest with here with us today, Mr. William Randolph, professional with over 25 years experience in federal procurement, and he saw all aspects from the contracting officer side to the consulting side, and also as the contractor. So he has a vast ocean of knowledge from all perspectives. Mr. Randolph, nice to have you. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you so very much for the invitation, and I look forward to having a great conversation with you and your audience.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My first introduction to you actually was last year during I spoke with a gentleman, I believe his name was Patrick, and I told him I was looking to get into micro purchases and how I could get into that.
Sure.
And he told me he was like, I met this guy at a networking event named Mr. William Randolph. You should check him out. So I checked you out. I saw your website. I sent an email inquiring about it. Then I signed up for it for Micro Market.
Yeah.
And then like a couple of days later, I saw that you were going to be on the VA. The VA has webinars where they
Yes.
help small businesses. And that's where I actually met you and Mr. Cotton, who's my mentor now.
Yes.
And uh, and you actually have another webinar coming up with the VA,
With the
correct?
VA. Yes. Next month. Yeah. We're going to do it all over again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I guess that would be a good starting point. Could you well first could you give us a brief background on yourself and your upbringing and who's Mr. Randolph?
Sure. Sure. So I am a retired federal government contracting officer of all the titles that I've had. I think I like that one the most. I came from I was born and raised on a 100-acre tobacco farm in Southern Virginia. So I always, whenever I share that, I say that when people talk about they come from the sticks and the dirt, it's like I actually came from the sticks and the dirt. Um, but I caught the first thing smoking out of town as a 17-year-old know-it-all, which was the United States Navy. So I joined the Navy right out of high school. And then after that, did about 5 years, 5.5 years, came out GI Bill in hand, grabbed an undergrad degree, and then started working for the federal government in contracts. Didn't do too bad from a career perspective. I I retired in 2016 as a senior executive service member. So in 2009, I had the honor of being selected into the senior executive service with the Department of Homeland Security and had a couple of positions there, but retired in 2016, chased money for a while doing some consulting. And then in 2019, started my own training and development company called Think Acquisition. And that's been going since 2019 until now. So I'm an active government contractor right now. And in last year is when you mentioned micro market. We saw an opportunity in the marketplace to aggregate small businesses interested in doing micro purchase work, but in the services space. There's lots of opportunity, lots of platforms and places to be seen if you're in the product space, but there was nothing for the services. So we was like, okay, let's build it. And we were building it for us. And then in the middle of it, it's like, wait a minute, if we build it for us, we could build it for everybody. So that's where Micro Market was born.
Yes, sir. Okay, so let's can first I would like to dive in deeper. As a senior procurement executive, what does that job entail? Like what was your responsibilities?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I started in procurement as a contract specialist. So over time, I was probably 5 years as a contract specialist, and then you become a contracting officer. You have the power of the pen to sign on behalf of the government. And then after that, you have various leadership positions. So you have a small team, and then you have a branch, then you have a division, and then ultimately you're responsible for the overall contracting execution of a contract shop. So as a senior procurement executive, that's what I did. I had in a couple of places, Marine Corps and a couple of places in the Homeland Security. I had ultimate responsibility. The buck stopped with me when it came to contracts, acquisition, guidance, execution. In my largest team, I had 186 people that were putting about $12 billion in the books every year.
Wow. Okay. So as so with micro markets, what was the vision behind that? Was it from your past experience that allowed you to be able to see that market?
Yeah, I think so. I always say that there were at least 6 seats around the table that is micro market. One is a card holder itself. I was a card holder when I was in the military. I actually had a purchase card. I think there is a contract specialist, a contracting officer role at the table in terms of the value proposition of micro purchases, because those don't usually run into or be are executed by contracts folks. They are usually in the program side of the house. So then comes the program side of the house. So I've had teams that I've been responsible for the purchase card being on my team and managing that. So effective execution. And then on the government side, oh, excuse me, on the industry side of the house, I've been a small business. I've been a new entrant, and that's a very unique proposition. The person is trying to start. And the first year of our business, we did over $200,000 worth of micro purchases the very first year we were in business. And my very first contract was a $4,800 purchase card order. The very first contract when I started the business. So I know that it works. And it is a mechanism that can be used. Here's the sixth seat, is a mechanism that can be used as a business development strategy, because the government wants to be able to take small risk and then prove out a relationship, a performance, connectivity, making sure the small business understands the language, understands the culture, understands the mission, knows what government contracting is, and can be a good partner. And they're willing to take a risk at $10,000. They're not going to
Yeah,
buy 2 million and take a risk. So they'll risk 10,000, and then once you prove the 10,000, then you find your way up the value chain. So that's the reason I think micro market came into existence, is because I've had the honor of sitting all 6 seats, and I think you'd have to have been set in all 6 seats to be able to see the vision that, wow, no one has really aggregated the spend and demand for micro purchase services the way they've done on the product side.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I because like I said earlier, when I was looking to get into micro market and I mean micro purchases, and I was like, I was asking people, how do you get into that market? Like
Right.
how do you find these? They're not on Sam's, they're
That's
not
right.
being
You
solicited.
got it.
And you said you did 200,000 your first year.
First year.
Could and that was before you had the micro market. So
Correct.
so how how was you able to do it? Was it because you had existing relationships where you just knew where to look?
See, that's the key, sir. Mr. Hill, what I realized is when I went back and looked at that first year, it was all relationships. Every one of them was someone that I knew, someone that knew my reputation, or a friend of a friend, or a colleague
Mm,
of a colleague. But the challenge with that is I had 26 years of experience to build that relationship base. And every small business doesn't have the luxury of being inside the federal government to build a relationship base from 26 years of experience. So what micro market seeks to do is to replicate the experience so people can be seen without having to have 26 years of experience, that the government has one place to go. You may be too young, sir, but I don't know if you remember what online buying looked like before Amazon. Okay, I'm 54 years old.
yeah, yes, sir.
So I know what online shopping looked like before Amazon. It was all over the
Hmm.
place.
Hmm.
Everything was all over the place, and the goodness of your shopping depended on how much looking you did, how much scouring the internet and deciding what was good, what was bad, what was a scam, what was real. Now people just start at Amazon because we've been trained to go there first. Even if we're going to buy something physically in a store, in a brick and mortar store, a lot of us will go to Amazon and do our market research, our price comparisons, and then go to the store because now we're informed. Micro market is seeking to do the same thing, to create a one place for micro purchase services buyers to come to be trained to train their eyeballs to look here first.
So to put it correctly, you're looking to be the Amazon of micro purchases.
Micro purchase services, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
micro purchase services.
Yep.
Okay. And so my question is, does micro purchases, do they have to go by CFR and FAR regulations? Or like do they have set asides, or is it just based off of prices, or is it, how does that look?
Yeah, so it's a couple of things. First, micro purchases fall under the guidance for simplified acquisitions. Simplified acquisitions is FAR Part 13. So the micro purchase program lives inside of FAR Part, the Federal Acquisition Regulation Part 13. There, the language says buyers should consider three quotes. Not shall, not must, but they should. So some level of price comparison of market research should occur, but most of the time people find what they're looking for. If they're lucky enough to find what they're looking for, and is determined to be fair and reasonable from a price perspective, they just buy. Are there set asides? No. And sadly, I think that's a missed opportunity. In 2023, the last time we have good stats for micro purchases, 36% of micro purchases were in the small business category. Only, and I use the word only, 36%. So I think that's actually the place where small businesses should be learning the government contracting space, because that's where you get an opportunity to figure out how to do business with the government in small bite-sized chunks. Okay. But only 36% was going to small businesses. Last year's numbers total, so I'm about to knock your socks off. There are over 700,000 cardholders across the whole of government. 700,000 individuals that have been trained and have the authority to buy with the purchase card. 700,000. Those 700,000 did 17 million transactions. So credit card swipes last year. Those 17 million credit card swipes totaled $20.1 billion with a B, $20.1 billion. Now that's products and services, both together. But about 30% of the big number, 30% of the 200 of the 20 billion, which is about 6 billion, is services. That's why we think there's a great opportunity for small businesses, because there's a lot of capacity that is going through the government purchase card program, and only about a third of it is currently being awarded to small businesses.
And do you think out of that 6 billion, it's all things that's all services that small businesses could provide?
Oh, certainly, yeah, because it's $10,000 at a time. It's $10,000 chunks. Now, some of them are expert services, like professional services, like accounting help or analysis and reporting. But some of it is pest control and yard and landscaping work. Might be small renovation projects or painting or changing the doorknobs, locksmiths. So all that's in the pie, but it's professional and non-professional services, and again, it's about $5 to $6 billion a year.
Yeah, and I imagine it's probably mostly like I guess the terms I could put in, low hanging fruit. So it's not too many people that are even aware. And I guess that's what micro market is for. So we could bring that awareness to
Increase
the.
the awareness, yes, but you're spot on. There's no place today that those requirements are being publicized. Okay, they're not being publicized anywhere. So as a result of that, there's only one or two ways that the buyer can reach out to somebody in absence of a platform like Micromarket or some of the other platforms like Amazon Business for services, for products, or Micromarket for services. There's only two ways that people find you. They know you exist already. They've done work with you already, pre-existing relationship, pre-existing reputation, or a Google search. And you'll be surprised, most micro purchase services activities start. Think about it. If you had a mice problem at your office building, or if you needed a couple of locks changed in an office, you got a new person coming in, you need the locks changed. Where do you go? Where do you start the process of looking for a locksmith? Where's the
Yeah.
locksmith closest near me? That's where it's a Google
Mhm.
search. So imagine if you could go to a platform that already has those pre-vetted, they're ready to do business, they are P card ready already. Because you'd be surprised how many people are still doing cash businesses in this day and age where they don't take credit cards, or if they do take credit cards, they're not from reputable banks. I had some work done not too long ago, and the guy said he only takes Cash App. I was like, that doesn't sound. I'm not knocking Cash App, but that doesn't
Yeah.
sound like a game, like a ongoing serious business. Now there are
Mhm.
probably some businesses that makes a lot of sense for, but if someone's doing serious work, then you got to be careful. It's like, what's the message that sends? That you're not that it might to some send a message that you're not serious.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So my next question is for micro market, what do you envision for the next 5 years? Do you see that as maybe potentially becoming like a GSA or another agency where it can be, the go-to for everybody to utilize services just for the micro market, like
Yeah, that's
a
that's the
whole
plan.
agency?
Yeah, that's the plan. And I actually, you said 5 years, but I have a 10-year plan. I have a ten
Yes,
year
sir.
plan. So I'm in no rush. I was like, let's do it right. We got 10 years to be a success. Um, but that's really the plan. When you think about GSA serves those small businesses or businesses that are at a size and business maturity, to make the investment to get a GSA schedule. Okay, that's how eBuy, you get on eBuy because you have a GSA schedule. But think about the hundreds, if not thousands, of companies that have yet to make enough revenue to make the investment to get a GSA schedule, but they're still interested in doing government contracting work. That's the focus. So it's micro market isn't for everybody. It's not a holistic solution, but it's one of the solutions in the stack. Okay. And I think it's the first solution in the stack, because you can start here and then you can mature to the other levels. But here's a place you can start, because I don't know if you know this or not, but in the micro purchasing environment, you're not even required to have a SAM registration to do micro purchase services. Not even required. Now, we encourage people to get it because that's
Yeah.
the next, that gets you up the ladder. Okay. But the first rung on the ladder is micro purchases, and there's an exemption from having a SAM registration.
That's a game changer. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that could provide a lot of opportunities
Lots of
for smaller
opportunities.
businesses. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I think this is a good pivot because you said, if for the next 10 years you plan on, making it like an agency like GSA. What with the things that's going on with President Trump and with DEI and them auditing agencies and closing down agencies, how do you see that disrupting, how do you see that effect on the federal contracting space as a whole from agencies and contractors?
Yeah, I see two vantage points. The first vantage point is, I think there's going to be even a more demand for micro purchase services. Think about all the individuals that are leaving government, that are leaving out. Those people were doing something. Now we can debate how well they were doing it. Someone can have an argument about how well they were doing it, but they were doing things. So the work that those folks were doing is still there. No one has said not do that work anymore. They're just saying take the employees out. So I think that is an opportunity for small businesses to fill the gap, maybe with consulting services, might be with staff augmentation services, additional bodies,
Yeah,
contracted bodies. But I also think it's going to be small activity to fill in the gaps. That's going to be the interesting. I think that's going to be the next play. Is that micro purchasing is going to elevate and fill some of the gaps that it's going to be clear holes from how how the federal government, the organization, large or federal government organization is going to be managed. That's number one. And then number two is I think there are going to be opportunities all over the place. We're just going to have to reimagine how we used to solve the problems. Okay, before it was a two variable equation. You think about an algebra problem. Okay, it was an algebra problem. There was X and Y. X was government employees, Y was contractors. And those were the two variables that we used to solve the government contracting services equation. Okay, there's a third equation now. It's X, Y, and Z. Okay, there's three variables in the equation now. It's employees, and we know there's downward pressure on employees. So if it's downward pressure on employees and the work hasn't changed, then guess what's got to go up? Contractors going to have to go up, and technology and AI is going to have to go up. Okay.
Yes.
So the ability for us to be able to read the tea leaves is like, okay, what's happening in the world? What do we see? And make some bets. We won't be right all the time, but we're going to have to make some strategic bets on what we think is going to be happening. And I think what we're going to see is we're clearly seeing phase one. Okay, phase one is employees downward pressure on employees. So the other thing is, okay, now we're going to have two additional levers now, which is, okay, are contractors going to fill the gap, or is technology, AI, going to fill the gap?
Yes. Okay, and from a contracting officer side, outlook, they have it's illegal for them. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's illegal for them to award contracts now based off of I guess you racial preference. I guess you would say,
Yeah, yeah,
but they still have the Small Business Act, so they still have goals that they still have to maintain.
absolutely. It's two. Those are two things. Those are two
Mhm.
separate things. First, the small business program is statutory, meaning it's an act. The Small Business Act. That's a law. Okay, so the Small Business Act, the law for the small business, that's not going away. Okay, because that takes an act of Congress for that to go away. What we're seeing is the implementation of the law. In the implementation of the law, the executive branch has the authority through executive orders to manage the implementation. Here's a perfect example. Last administration, Biden said move the small disadvantaged 8A program from 5 to 15. The early numbers said they almost made it. They made 14.2. Okay. But it almost tripled in 4 years. Now what you're seeing is the reversal of that through executive order. It's no longer 15, it's back to 5. Okay? Because the implementation of the program can happens in the executive branch and can be executed or implemented by executive order. So that's what we see. And in regards to the DEI thing, I shared with someone not too long ago, probably about a week ago. I said, for the last 4 years, we've had a blinking neon sign to the table that has said welcome. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Everybody was welcome. Everybody got if you were willing to do the work, everyone had an opportunity to get a seat at the table. What has happened is they've turned the welcome sign off. Okay. That doesn't mean that we just don't still have an opportunity to earn a seat at the table. Okay. So what we're going to have to do is take these years where the welcome sign is on, all the skills and the knowledge and the execution and the strategy and the tactics that we had to honor and the capability to hone over the last 4 years. Now we gotta bring those to the table, and we gotta fight. Okay, we gotta elbow our way in because the welcome sign is no longer on. They've turned the
Yeah.
welcome sign off. Okay, but that doesn't mean that the door's closed.
Mhm.
Okay, it's just the welcome sign is off.
And as a SDVOSB, and our status not being based off of race. Do you see? I know that for employees, the DEI and disabled veterans were included in that. A lot of disabled veterans, lost jobs with federal agencies, but on the contracting side, our status still remains. Is that
Yes, yes. Not only remains, it's better than it was last year. If you remember, there was the SDVOSB small business goal for prime contracting was 3%. It moved to 5% in the middle of the year, but it was never codified in language anywhere. Now, the Small Business Administration's stats, their goals for the year, all of them now say for all agencies, they now say 5%. It's stated as a 5% goal for SDVOSBs. So that's a 66% increase. Okay. So so again, some of the welcome signs are turned off, but some of the other ones have been turned on, and they put new
yes,
light
sir.
bulbs in them. Okay, and they put new light bulbs. So we just got to figure out where to go. Where to go? We got to play the game. In the short term, we have to play the game. But I think that's a great opportunity. The SDVUSB is now 5%. So, I would encourage people to anyone that find themselves in that position is to partner and collaborate and joint venture and do all the things that allow you to take that magic key, because that's a magic key now. Take that magic key and go into the marketplace and unlock some doors.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Randolph, for your ocean of information and vast knowledge and all your experience. Could you leave our guests with parting words or anything that you have, that and also how could they also reach you and get involved with micro markets?
Absolutely, absolutely. So my parting words are this: the welcome sign has been turned off, but the door is not closed. So what we have to do as small businesses, we have to go into the lab and create value, because the marketplace still rewards value. That's still, with all the craziness that's happening, if you can bring value to the marketplace, the marketplace still rewards and celebrates value. Okay, so go into the lab, get into the gym, get the reps up, get strong. Okay, and bring your value to the marketplace. So, and in terms of how to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn. So use William Randolph on LinkedIn. And if anyone's interested in joining Micro Market, I encourage them to strongly consider that as a piece of your stack of business. That micromarket.co is the website, is the platform. Micromarket.co is the website. And we have plenty of opportunities, and you can reach out to me from there at info@micromarket.co if anyone has any interest in getting a one-on-one onboarding and in-doc and conversation around joining the Micro Market family.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Guys, this has been another installment of CEO at the Gas Pump. This has been Mr. William Randolph, and I'm Ratwan Hill. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later.
We will. Bye-bye.